Here we are in lesson 6, the most important tool in your studio. One of the first things I learned to do was to be able to properly use the most important tool in any photography studio. No, not the camera, the telephone. I learned that I can have the best camera in the world and be an expert in its use. But if I couldn't handle the telephone properly, my studio would not be successful. I learned that when the phone rings, that there is an opportunity for new business. I had two choices when it came to answering the phone. One, I could answer hello and then say whatever dropped out of my mouth, or two, I could have a plan on how to handle each and every call. I chose the latter. I created a telescript with a list of questions in the order that they should be asked to maximize each and every call. The impact of doing this was unbelievable. In a short time, I was booking sessions at a rate I couldn't have previously imagined. The magic of the telephone is something that every photographer needs to know. One of the pitfalls a lot of studios fall into as the studio matures is that the photographer strays away from the phone and hires a receptionist to handle the call so that he can handle more important things. He hires somebody with minimal experience and puts them in one of the most important positions in the studio. I call it the front gate, and this is where all your business comes in. Be cautious in doing this. I recommend that you do not allow a new employee to become your front door until they've proven themselves to be effective on the phone. Make sure that no matter who calls, whether it's an easy to deal with prospect or a more difficult prospect, that they can handle each and every call with kindness, intelligence, and effectiveness. Remember this, when you do all the things that you do to bring business into your studio, don't lose it on the phone because the person you hired is unable to seal the deal due to lack of experience or lack of training. One of the best ways to train a receptionist, or manager of first impressions as I like to call them, is to do role playing. Get with them several times a week and spend 15 minutes to a half hour having your team member pretend to answer the phone, and then you act as the prospect would. Begin making it easy to schedule a portrait call. After a few successes, start making the questions tougher and tougher until they can handle them with the greatest of ease. A great goal to strive for is to have your manager of first impressions better at handling calls than you. This may be culture shock for you at first, but just think of how great it would be for you to do other things while you have someone handle all your calls in a very effective way. Regarding managing your phone, it is important that you track each call that comes into your studio. When a call comes into your studio, it's important that the person who answers the phone does it in an upbeat, cheery way. No matter what kind of day they're having, they need to exude a positive attitude. Your caller needs to feel welcome when that call is answered. At LeBlanc Studios, we answer the phone with an upbeat, "Thank you for calling LeBlanc Studios." Notice I didn't say good morning or good afternoon. By saying thank you, we have begun the conversation with a thank you. We've almost congratulated the prospect by letting them know that we are grateful for their call. Also, the person answering the phone doesn't need to know if it's 11:59 or 12:01 so that they get the morning or afternoon introduction correct. By saying thank you for calling, you've opened up the call with an optimum greeting. Here's the typical way we handle an incoming portrait call into our studio. Remember that there's only two outcomes that should come from a prospect's call. The prospect should either have their session scheduled over the phone with payment secured by a credit card, or a portrait consultation should have been scheduled. After my manager of first impression says, "Thank you for calling LeBlanc Studios," they then say their name and ask how they may help the prospect. When you're asked what is the price of an 8x10, simply say that you'll be happy to help them with that request. But first, how did you hear about us? Once they tell you that it was the display in the mall, a recent mailer, or whatever, write down what marketing vehicle it was that caused them to call. Then ask them what their name is. Using their name, ask them if you can have their phone number. just in case. I've never had a prospect ask me, in case what? They usually just give me their phone number and I write it down for follow-up. Once we have this information, then we can delve into why they're seeking a portrait studio. Is it a 50th anniversary, family reunion, or some other need? The prospect will then tell us of their particular need. We get excited along with the prospect and try to find out what is the most important thing regarding the upcoming portrait session. This is what we call the prospect's DBM, or dominant buying motive. When you seek out a prospect's DBM and have them tell you what's the most important thing to them regarding their portrait, they soon forget about the price of an 8x10. And they know that they're dealing with an experienced portrait professional that's looking out for their best interest. A prospect's DBM is of major importance, and by you understanding their needs and assisting them, they quickly begin to trust you and rely on your counsel. To give you examples of a DBM, here are a couple of DBMs that we hear quite often. There is a limited time that my whole family will be together. All of a sudden, the price of an 8x10 really becomes, are you available to assist my family with a beautiful portrait? Because we have a very short window of opportunity. By checking your calendar and confirming that you can accommodate their time frame, we can usually convince the prospect to either commit over the phone to schedule their session, or to set a time to come in and view our work and chat about the upcoming portrait. Whatever the DBM is, assure your prospect that you are the best studio to handle their needs and that you truly care about making their portrait experience the very best. Find out what their needs are. Enables you to move them from the price of an 8x10 to what really matters, a beautiful portrait that can be treasured for generations. Remember, when a client calls regarding pricing, if all you do is recite prices from your price list, you're limiting your ability to do great work with a great prospect by not scheduling the session. The prospect loses because they miss the opportunity to work with a creative photographer, you. Remember, the telephone is the lifeline of every studio. Don't ever underestimate its importance. After all, it is your most important tool. By the way, the 1 or 2 prospects that you lose each year by not answering the question of how much is an 8x10 right away are prospects that you really didn't want to work with anyway. These are prospects that are letting their fingers do the walking, and they're seeking a studio on price alone. I wish them the best of luck. So your goal right now is to get really good at creating portraits and really great at working with your clients. Always communicate with your clients in the most positive way possible. If you're having a rough day, don't let your clients know. People do not need what we do. They want what we do, and it's important that they love the experience, not just the end product. This concludes Lesson 6. The next lesson is Lesson 7, and it's the idea that will boost your portrait sales to levels that you never thought possible. It's actually the most important lesson in the series of creating cash with your camera. I urge you to invest in my book. It'll be the single best thing you can do for your career in photography. Don't make the same mistakes I made. They've cost me a lot of time and money. Learn from a working pro who's been there. Make the investment today. If you're not 100% delighted with the results that you get from reading my book, I'll refund the full amount, no questions asked. Well, I wish you the best of luck. It's all up to you. All you have to do is to go to the bottom of the page and click Buy Now. Invest only $27 in your new future, and let's get started creating the life you've always dreamed of. What are you waiting for? I guarantee that you will be 100% satisfied, or I'll give you all your money back. You can only win with this offer. Let's get started now. Go to the bottom of the page, click Buy Now, and invest only $27 in your future. Remember, you can accomplish anything you desire if you find the right guide to get you there. You can do it. Live life with enthusiasm and be proactive. This is Stephen LeBlanc, LeBlanc Studios, signing off.